Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another interview for one of the authors of the Northwest Independent Writers Association, or Niwa. We're joined today with Shaun Kennedy, whose work is ranges quite a ways. It's you've got science fiction, fantasy, and philosophical, and theological, and even a rule set for 3D chess, which I want to get into in a little
Uh-huh.
bit, which sounds really fun. So let's start off with your latest release, a fantasy novel, Three Against the Gods, which is a
Yes.
sequel to A Sacrifice of Three. And can you tell us a little bit about the series and your
Uh,
protagonist?
um, the bad pitch first.
Oh,
Everybody loves my bad pitch for a sacrifice to three. An old man gets captured by an alien tribe, and he learns to count to five. Um, Everybody loves my bad pitch when they read it. They go, "No, that's not it." And I said, "What are you doing it wrong?" And they go, "Well, none of it, but that's not right either." Um,
right.
uh, the uh, the story I wanted to tell is the story of an Amazonian warrior tribe that worships math. The problem is, I'm not the mathematician in the family. My brother is. So I'm the words guy. He's the numbers guy. So I needed a point of view character who didn't know any math, among people who do. And so I make the point of view character uh, a warrior who grew up in a tribe where they literally do not have to count past three. When you're dividing up spoils, you don't care how many uh, gold coins each person gets, as long as each person gets the same number of gold coins, right? So you just pass them out, you know, one for Bob, one for Charlie, one for me, one for Bob, one for Charlie, one for me. Um, and so he doesn't ever have to learn to count past three. And then he ends up captured and enslaved by, like I said, this warrior tribe uh, of women who worship math and are absolutely enamored with all the things you can do with math. Um, if anybody's familiar with the history of development, they're kind of proto-Pythagoreans, and so that's the first one. By the end of the first one, he's actually gotten to a point where he has earned the respect of the woman that owns him, and she ends up elevated to the status of governing a one of the first early city states that they conquer. And so he's put in a position of power and authority to help her manage this group. And so uh, he has to learn to communicate with these people who speak a foreign language. He has to learn the details of math so that he can tell the people he's overseeing how all this stuff works. It's a lot of kind of political intrigue and a little beheading in the middle to spice it up.
That always goes along well with political intrigue. Yeah, occasional beheading. Well, that sounds good. So, is this the end of that series, or are there more planned?
Oh, there
Uh,
are definitely more planned. This is my daughter's absolute favorite of anything I've written.
hmm.
She loves a lot of what I write. My 14-year-old daughter, and every 47-year-old's man's dream is that their daughter likes something they do. And this is her absolute favorite of everything I've written. She gets her numbers aptitude from her uncle, um, and not me. She's out mathing me at 14, so that's where I'm at.
Cool.
Uh,
So, is that a challenge to write that then? To have this mathematically literate culture?
uh, I
Sounds like
am incurably curious. And as you mentioned before, a lot of what I write is also like theologically driven and philosophically driven. And so about 12 or 13 years ago, I did a really deep dive on the Pythagoreans. They were an actual group that actually worshiped math in ancient Greece. Um, they were kind of a weird group. They were vegetarians, and they also didn't eat beans. And nobody knows why they didn't eat beans. Um,
Huh.
they just had and if you know anything about vegetarianism, the thing you lack when you don't have meat is usually protein, which is
Mhm.
found in beans. And so the fact that they didn't eat beans may mean that a lot of them were suffering malnutrition a lot of the time. Um, but we don't know. There's actually like this epic poem by one of the Pythagoreans that's like 45 pages long or something, where he apologizes for having transgressed the norms of the community. And when you get to the end of the poem, the thing he's apologizing so dramatically for is he ate beans. He
Huh.
ate bean soup at a friend's house, and
Wow.
so they are weird. Um, they're the ones. I can't remember the name of the guy now, but there was a guy who figured he was the first one to figure out that there are irrational numbers like the square root of two. He proved
Hmm.
that the square root of two cannot be represented as a fraction. And first thing is he goes to the elders and he goes, "I've got this mathematical proof, but I don't know what it means." And they go, "Well, it means you're a heretic."
Oh.
And he goes, "But the math works or doesn't
He,
work, however you want to word that." And so they get all the elders together and they argue about it and they fight about it. And so then the next day they took him fishing and they left him there.
oh. So they just, and he was one of the Pythagoreans, or is this
Yeah, he was one of the
okay?
Pythagoreans.
He proved
And it
irrational
was the
numbers.
Pythagoreans that left him there.
Oh.
And so they like everybody, they thought real highly of themselves. We are the superior people who are pacifists and vegetarians, and we would never do anything bad or evil or hurt anybody. And for like 200 years later, all the people that didn't like them would go, "Oh, so when's Alex coming back from that fishing trip then?" And
Right. Huh. Which is interesting because I would think that they would, of all people, would be interested in the square root of two or other such things.
they were, and
The right
it's
triangles.
like anything in any religion. In generation one, it's heresy, and how dare you?
Mm.
In generation two, it's that's that weird thing that only the experts talk about, and then in generation three, it's orthodox.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. So that would be how that came. Okay.
Yeah,
Now I'm really
and
fascinated about these Pythagoreans, but it's like whatever happened to them because I haven't heard of them before.
uh,
I'm assuming they're not still
so
around.
uh, ish. In
Yeah.
some ways, we're all Pythagoreans now. Um, they they were weird, and they took it to an extreme that was weird. But um, if you look at the evolution, they started out uh, uh, they started out a music and math club, basically. Pythagoras, the original Pythagorean,
Mhm.
of Pythagoras's theorem, he figured out, and Pythagoras' theorem actually predates him by like 400 years at
Oh.
least.
Huh.
So why did it get named after him? Because he had a really good publicist.
Hmm.
Um, um, but he figured out that if you have a string and you pluck it and then you cut it in half and you pluck it again, those sound good together. He didn't know what that meant, but it meant he could make music.
Mhm.
And so he started doing like, well, what if you draw a star and you make strings the different lengths of the different arms of the star, draw stars in various different ways, and found out that they kind of make good music together. And so it started out a music and math club.
Huh.
And then somebody said, "Well, I don't like eating beans." And they said, "Okay, that's the new rule is we don't eat beans." Somebody else said, "Well, I kind of don't really like this going to war thing." They said, "Okay, we're pacifists now." And, you know, it just kind of evolved like that. Um, uh, One of the last true Pythagoreans was a man you've probably heard of named Socrates.
Oh, yes. Okay. He
Socrates
was.
Socrates taught his version of Pythagoreanism and some of his other philosophy to Plato, who taught all of that to Aristotle, who said, "Plato, you're a little nuts." and they started a little fight. And everything that survived from between the two of them was that they carried from Pythagoreanism. And so basically, all of your high school, middle school, grade school math curriculum is because you had Pythagoreans arguing with each other up until the last generation. Okay, they no longer make a big deal about being pacifists. They no longer make a big deal about not eating beans. Or I don't think so. I haven't been to college lately. Maybe they don't eat beans, but um, uh, you know, they've evolved, but they've become such a integral part of society. You know, all of our modern philosophy, all of our modern mathematics, ultimately derives from the things that they did. Um,
Okay, that is fascinating. And so
yeah,
you put a lot of this into your book, into the
yeah, I put
numbers books. Yeah.
yeah, I put a lot of this. You know, how are they really thinking about things? The other thing that I included in the books, um, this was not something that the Pythagoreans did, but it was a known like magical system. It's called numerancy,
Hmm.
and it was considered to be more reliable form of divination than anything else. Uh, if you want a semi-modern take on numerancy, you can pick up a book from China called I Ching. It's kind of like numerancy, except they have a, a, a derivation at the beginning that's magical. But everything after that is numerical. And back in the ancient times, they did actually have people. We don't know the details of how they got from, you know, the date to a number to figuring out what was going to happen, but they did actually say, "This is today's date. This is my name. This is my name in numbers. This is today's date in numbers. And if we multiply by this and divide by that and take the square root of the location of Mars, it turns out that it's going to rain today." And you know, of course, the calculations were so complicated that you didn't do it for something like, is it going to rain today?
Right.
You did it for, you know, who's going to win the upcoming war and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I do in my uh, in by the numbers, or in the first one, sacrifice to three, is my point of view character. His owner is somebody who asks the numbers everything. You know, what should I have for breakfast? Where should I
Oh.
set up my tent as we're doing our marauding? You know, um, and I have little hints about what you might be seeing throughout the story. You know, when she does her calculations to figure out where she should set up her tent, the point of view character is able to look at it and recognize that what she's doing is doing calculations on a map. And you know, I didn't have a way to really communicate this in the book, but what she's doing is she's saying, "Hey, the wind usually comes from the north. the The mountains are over here. The trees are down here. Trees kind of intercept wind this way. Mountains kind of intercept wind that way. If I put my tent here, it will be the safest spot." Um, and you know, in Three Against the Gods, um, he actually learns some mathematical tricks, things that if you don't know the trick the first time you see it, you're going to go, "Wait a minute, how did he figure that out? Or how did he know where to stand? How did he know what to do?" If you're familiar with Josephus um, from the
Oh, right.
Jewish Wars, there's a famous problem when Josephus decided to defect to the Romans. It's hard to convince your whole company of loyal Jewish citizens to defect with you. It's easier to convince them to commit suicide. Um, but then it turns out that it's not even that easy to convince them to commit suicide. So what they decided is each man will kill the man on his right. and then you'll go around in the circle, and then at the end, the only guy that's left will be the only one actually committing suicide. Well, somehow Josephus knew where to stand to make sure he was the last one standing.
Right.
Okay. If you know semi-advanced geometry and number theory, it's not actually that hard to do. But it's one of those things I ran into in my explorations of how is math been used in weird ways, and I went, this is the kind of thing he's going to stand up. He's going to go, you know what? We're all going to stand here, and the last one standing is going to be the priest for the people, and puts himself in this Josephus problem spot, so he'll be the last one standing. And of course, he has to learn enough math to get to that point before, but uh,
right.
I joke with the people in my writing group. Every so often, somebody will say, "Don't read Shaun stuff; it makes you think." And I said, "Well, you can read Sacrifice to 3. The guy there can't even count to 5 till the end of the story, so that can't make you think too hard, can it?" Right. And they go, "Don't do that."
Well, awesome. I'm almost afraid to ask now, but I am curious about your 3D chess rules. So these are not like for the Star Trek chess. This is right.
Yes.
You're using multiple levels of the same size chessboard. Is that correct?
Yes.
8
by 8.
Right.
8 by 8 by however tall you need to go. Oh. So
yeah, how does that work?
When I first started doing self-published writing, it started out. I had a major psychological break about 14 years ago, and I ended up in the loony bin for 2 or 3 weeks. And I saw a whole bunch of therapists, and none of them were really able to help me until one guy suggested I start up my blog. And so that it was actually the only thing that helped, and I continue to blog because it helps. It's cheaper and effective than therapy. I've made enough money off of it that I've kind of flipped the cheaper on its head, and I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that. But anyway, that's where we are with that. This is a little bit of a detour, but I promise we're getting there. One of my things that I've always done is Bible translation. And I have a couple of books of the Bible where I have a minority position on what the original text was. And so I got to looking, and back in the day, the way that you self-published, or the way you made a book for yourself, was through a company called CreateSpace. It's been absorbed by Kindle since then. But anybody from back in the day already has their heart beating, and they're going, "Oh no, I miss CreateSpace. I miss CreateSpace too." Sorry. But I wanted a Bible that used my preferred sources behind the English text. And so I did that. I put together a book, and I called it the Corrected King James, because most of it just used the King James text, because most of it is just the same text. It's only, Matthew, a couple of Paul's letters, things like that that are a different text, and then not very different. And so I did that through CreateSpace, and anybody who was there remembers the very last thing after you put your book together was, do you want to put this on Amazon? And it was not sell my first child. It was not give me your credit card. It was just yes or no. And how stupid you have to be to say no.
Right.
So I said yes. And my mom bought a copy. And my mom has a friend who's a nun, and she bought a copy. And I had a couple of good friends at work that said, "Hey, I'll buy a copy of Shaun's books because, why not?" And wouldn't know, by the time it was all said and done, there was one more sale than I could account for on the Amazon reports. I went, that's weird. So then I did the thing that I recommend nobody else ever do ever again. I did a burner book that was made out of a story that I wrote for therapy that was my heart. Don't do that. Don't do that for your burner book. For your burner
Oh,
book, do a burner book. Do not do the one that is your heart. You died.
right.
I
Oh,
died a lot.
yeah.
um,
Oh,
but same thing. At the end of the first run, there was 2 more sales than I could account for by the people that I knew. And so then I did one in secret that I don't tell anybody about, that's not
yeah.
published under my name. Um, and it sold 2 or 3. And she said, man, maybe there's something to this. And I started doing some research. And I found a place that talked about, what you've got to do to be able to make like a part-time income as a self-published author. It said you've got to be able to sustainably do between 3 and 5 projects a year. Like I said, I'm not the numbers guy. My brother is 5 years younger than me, and I needed his help to get through high school math. Um, but I think 4 is between 3 and 5. I'm open to correction, but I think 4 is between
Okay.
3. So I decided I was going to do 4 projects a year. The year that the 3D chess rules came out, it was the beginning of December, and I had just finished up project number 3. I had notes from years before. My brother and I had tried to. We'd bought a 3D chessboard, and we bought like 5 or 6 different sets of rules, and all of them sucked. Uh, uh, there was one of them where white won on the 5th move, no matter what black did.
Oh,
There was another one where you had to have like 12 different kinds of rooks. And anyway, it was
oh,
just every one of them was a mess in its own way. Um, and so I spent the better part of 6 months making what I called the best rules, but at that they were just scribbles in a notebook, right?
mm-hmm.
And so I said, I've got a month to put a book together, and I put together the 3D chess rules. It is, as of today, my #1 bestseller.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you got it. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit what's different about it than the other ones?
So conceptually, I had 4 rules. Number 1, I wanted there to be any number of levels of chessboard from 1 to a billion. Um, and that's something that I picked up from one of the rules that I didn't like. Is it could do that. It could stack however high you wanted. Um, Number 2, when there was only one, the exact same rules had to be regular. Yeah. Number 3, I wanted the flavor of every character to remain the same. One of the things that I did not like about the first one that I told you about that you could have up to 25 rules or 25 levels, the rook or the knight could move from the top level to the bottom level in one move.
Hmm.
And if you're familiar with chess, that's the big thing about the knight is it's got a limited range.
Right.
Um, and then number 4, it had to be as fair as regular chess, meaning that white couldn't automatically win at the end of 5 moves, no matter what black did, if you had a certain number of levels. You could just play with the recommendation that my brother and I found online for the one that had the rule that or had the set of rules that white ended up winning with the first 5 moves was just to make it a rule that white had to move their pawn on the first move instead of another piece.
Hmm.
And that still only fixed it so much.
Right.
Um, it extended it so that white could only guarantee a win in 10 moves. But
right. But still, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then
so
your set fixes that issue.
Yeah, mine is as fair as regular chess. In regular chess, white does have a very minor advantage,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so minor that in 200 games, if you have equal players, it'll be one player. The white player wins 101 games to the other one's 99. It is not so unfair that it's noticeable until you get to like the professional levels, and that's why at the professional levels they switch.
Okay, cool. So, okay, let's a little bit. You mentioned your King James Bible, or your
Yeah,
corrected version of it. You went back
yeah,
to the original sources, and you have a different
yeah.
interpretation. Can you give kind of an overview about what's different, just kind of high level,
Um,
or
the the difference is that in a couple of cases, I think the source material that most of your regular Bibles is off by 1%. Um, the easiest one, the most drastic one, is the Gospel of Matthew. Um, okay, actually, I have a quick joke that I've just developed over the last couple of months to explain the difference here.
oh,
When you look at ancient this is a three part joke. Um, when you look at ancient documents and the ancient consensus and the modern consensus are different about who the author of a document was. You know what they call that?
hmm,
They call that pseudepigrapha.
okay,
Uh,
super.
when the ancient consensus, and there's a lot of examples of that. Some of the dialogues of Plato, they think weren't actually written by Plato. For example,
Oh,
all the ancient people thought they were written by Plato. Some of the modern people go, maybe not. So that's pseudographia.
hmm,
Oh no, wait, that one's pseudepigraphia. Um, then there's, what do you call it when the ancient consensus and the modern consensus are different about the setting? An example of this would be the donation of Constantine. Ancient people thought it was written by Constantine. Modern people say it wasn't written until the Middle Ages. They call that pseudographia. What do they call it when the ancient consensus and the modern consensus disagree on the original language of a document? I'm going to let you take a real guess at that one.
uh, ancient language. Okay, ancient that's on the language of the
Yeah,
original
when the
document.
ancients and the modern disagree on the original language of a document.
I have no idea.
Gospel of
Pseudolingraphia.
Matthew.
Sorry, what?
They call it the Gospel of Matthew.
Oh, okay. So it
That is
wasn't.
literally the only document in all of the ancient history where the modern consensus and the ancient consensus disagree about the original language.
Oh,
Um, the ancients all thought Matthew was written in Hebrew, and
okay.
the Greek version we have is a translation.
Mhm.
The
But modern
modern
consensus.
consensus is that the Greek we have is the original.
Oh,
It's the only document like that in the entire world in all of history.
huh. Oh well.
Um,
So that
I don't
would.
like that. I say, hey, maybe instead of the ancients being wrong only one time, they were always right. And so there is a very small family of manuscripts that are Matthew in Hebrew that are related. Um, Depending on how you count, um, some people would say there's four manuscripts in this family. Some people would say there's about a dozen. So it's a very small. It's just going to depend on how you count, commentaries and fragments. Um, but I have used this family as my basis for the underlying text of Matthew, and
Mhm.
uh, it for me it answers a lot of questions. There's a lot of word plays in Matthew. in Hebrew that don't translate Greek. Uh, when uh, when Jesus says, "Listen to the Pharisees because they sit in Moses' seat," the word for Moses in Hebrew is Moshe, and
Right.
the word for uh, seat in Hebrew right there is Mosheb. So it's a play on his name,
Oh, okay.
and
I
so
see they
there's
take the place
you
of
know
Moses, is what it's saying.
yeah, yeah, and
Huh.
so it's kind of a lot of these things that people have struggled with because they sound like absolute this is the rule. Well, actually, they're inside jokes,
Okay.
and they're dad jokes,
Right.
and so it kind of changes the force when you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is actually a dad joke.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So we're almost out of time because Zoom's going to cut us off in about 5 minutes here. Um,
okay,
so sorry to get off, but real quick. So you're a member of Niwa. How
yeah.
can you tell us, like, real briefly, how long you've been a member and what kind of resources from them that you've used uh,
Uh,
or have
I
been?
joined last year
Okay.
because, like I said, I've gotten to a point where I've started to make money as a writer, and I don't know what to do about it. Um, and so I joined last year, but I was in the middle of a job transition, so I didn't have much time to use any resources at all. And so this year I've signed up to go to some of the events, and I've signed up to do some of the uh, to have some of my books go to some of the events and things like that. Um, and so I'm really looking forward to it. The one thing they have loved about writing is I have met more people who think like me. When I was finishing up Three Against the Gods, we were in a write-in at my local writing group, and I got to the last 7 or 8 pages, and I said, "Okay, I need some advice. How many decapitations in a row are too many?" And there's not a
What was the
whole lot of
answer?
groups who can just ask that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. That's perfect place to end on. So let's go and end here. Oh, also, do you have a website and are you on social media anywhere that people can
I
find you?
on
Where can they find your books?
Facebook. Um, I have a blog. If you go to ShaunCKennedy.wordpress.com, that's my blog, and you can find me on Amazon. And then I'm also on Facebook. If you look up Shaun Kennedy author, I actually check my author one more often than my
Hmm.
personal one. So if you're trying to reach me, that's an easier way to get to me.
All right.
Um,
Cool. All right.
I have been told that if you suffer from insomnia, my blog is the place to go.
All right. Well, perfect. So thank you very much. And we'll have those links in the video description once it's posted up
All
there.
right, thank you.
And thank you.